Hello, I am Andy. You may know me as the party leader of the Cthulhu Party. I'm here today as part of the Hopeless Maine festival, to talk to you about something I've made, take you through the process. So the thing I'm going to talk to you about is this box, and more importantly, what's in this box. So this is an artifact, sort of Lovecraftian inspired piece of stone tablet. So this is something I made entirely from scratch, apart from the box. The box I got from a charity shop, and it's one of these I think it would have had something like a Chinese sort of tea set in it or something. The box has got no age to it at all. The bottom of it's MDF. The rest of it's some sort of thin plywood, I think. Possibly some sort of balsa, I'm not quite sure. Quite lightweight anyway. But, the box also was very, very pale wood. I've stained it a lot darker. And so that came from a charity shop. I think it cost me about £2. The item inside I made myself, and it was free because that is made from this stuff, which is like a sort of insulation foam manufactured by Kingspan. Comes with like a foil sheet on both sides. I just peel the foil off, and then you are left with this, which is sort of a dense foam. This kind of foam is very easy to carve. I carved the runes into this, which I've got upside down. I carved the runes into this using a sanding burr on a Dremel, but you could just... I did that basically for ease, but so I marked out the runes sort of on the surface just with a Sharpie, took it down to the workshop, got the little Dremel attachment on it, and just went in and ground in these markings. Now, with the sort of Kingspan type foam, so this sort of foam, unlike expanded polystyrene, this stuff does seem to be okay with acrylic spray paint. So I just sprayed it with a grey Halford's primer, and I then did various washes over it using an airbrush. Now, I purely did it using an airbrush because I have only just got myself an airbrush, and it was a good piece to experiment on because nothing had to be that precise, because I was going for a natural sort of weathered look. So it was just very thin sort of mist coats of sort of creams and greens and browns to create this sort of dirty old sort of stone tablet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera off the tripod, spin it round, and then show you a bit more about how I did the box, which was, to be honest, the far harder thing to do. So this is going to be talking about how I did all these labels and the ink stamps and everything else that are on here. So we are going to have a quick look at that. I'm just going to take the camera off the tripod, spin it round, and we'll have a look at how we do that. Okay, so this is the top of the box, a bit closer up, so you can see sort of some of the labels and the stamps and things, and then some of the stamps going across the labels onto the box. So obviously this isn't something that you can just do with a printer and stuff made on a computer. Now, all of the labels here, so these sort of Ringwood Commission archives, the University of the South Riding, and all these other ones on here, apart from that one and the sort of postage label here, all of those are just done on the computer, very simply just done with tables in Microsoft Word. So these aren't even needing Photoshop or anything. These are literally just tables in MS Word. Logos I've found on the internet. Now, the names on here, Ringwood Commission and University of the South Riding, are both things that appear in a novel that I'm writing. That's where I've got those names from. They aren't really sort of they're nothing that actually exists. The Asian lettering, sort of Oriental lettering on here was on here. I think it's Chinese, it might be Korean. It was already on here when I bought it. I didn't do that. That was on the box. That's part of the reason I bought the box. Now, the first thing I did with this before I did anything else was I sprayed the entire thing with the airbrush with a sort of mist of brown, sort of dirty, dark brown paint, basically just to age it down a lot because it was very, very new looking and I wanted this box to look like it could be 100 years old or more. So first thing was aging the box down just in terms of the colour, so getting it, as I say, brown rather than very sort of pale wood, and I did that both outside and on the inside, and I also aged all this straw down because that was all very yellow and very new looking, so that all got the same brown wash over everything. I then sort of went over it holding the airbrush a lot closer, just doing blasts of individual sort of areas that were darker and more splattered sort of thing, because again, just to show that this has been around a bit, it's been shipped a few times. So then the labels, I don't use fountain pens. I never have been able to get on with them, partly with being left-handed, so I generally just use a few of these sort of fine liner type pens to do all the writing on them. Yeah, my handwriting isn't the best. I do sort of try a bit harder with this than I would for most other things to try and make it look a bit more sort of in period, but I don't know how good that looks really. It's sort of a very subjective thing. And again, I try to sort of layer up the stickers again, the stickers again, to just give sort of this this idea that this has been done. This has happened over a long period of time rather than all of these being on at the same time. You'll notice the stickers are subtly different colours as well, and that's basically what I do is I generally tea stain paper, flatten it, dry it out flat, and then run it through the printer, because you can't tea stain stuff with inkjet printing on it because inkjet ink is water soluble. So that's one way I do them. The other way is I use something called parchment paper, which is how I did that one. So those two and the ones on the top are tea stained. That one's parchment paper. Again, it's just a different paper, slightly different look. And then some of them I also do using stuff like this. So this is genuinely old sort of foxed paper. So things like this little Cthulhu Party one was done on that. The shipping label was done on that. And these are basically they're fly leaves from old books that are end of life. So near me there is a shop called the 20p shop, where, surprise, surprise, everything's 20p. It's people basically take rubbish there to sell. And one of the things I buy from there is old books that are falling apart beyond sort of feasible repair. And I take out illustrations and blank fly leaves to get the old paper for doing this kind of thing and the old illustrations to scan. Now, the stamps, the ink stamps on here, the withdrawn is a just standard commercially available stamp. I bought it from, I think, online or maybe from a shop, I'm not sure. It's just a standard office stamp, library stamp type thing. Nothing special about it. That's just a standard one you can get. I think that's the only one on here that's actually 100% standard. The P Crown, that is this stamp here, which I found in a charity shop. I have no idea who P Crown is, but it just adds to the history of the box. I've got quite a few of these sort of old ones as well. I bought a job lot of them from a stall on Leeds Market, which are all to do with this this Charles Bell of Liverpool, who was some sort of importer, shipping agent. And again, it fits with the history of this piece. I have used these on other things as well. All I would say if you have old rubber stamps is make sure they don't dry out too much, because they will crack over time if they dry out. So I found the easiest way to avoid that is to just keep using them, and that way they don't dry out too much. But ultimately, yeah, they can crack, they can become damaged. So I've got quite a few of those, these old ones from this shipping company. The date stamps here are an interesting one because they are done using this, which is a rotating date stamper, which again I found in a charity shop. Now, obviously, this is not old enough to be 1902, which is the date on here, because what I did here was I managed to find a date stamp that somebody had dumped in a charity shop where the dates were the years 1994 through to 2004. And what I did was I took a Stanley knife and I cut the date wheel up the middle so I could offset the 19 with the 00 to 04. So that gives me years 1900 to 1904 on a sort of 1990s date stamp. So that's how I'm doing these 1902 dates on here, and I think there's a 1903 on the side there, which is a bit clearer because it's stamped onto paper rather than onto wood. The Cthulhu Party crest is a custom-made stamp that I had done to do all the Cthulhu Party stuff. The Honourable District Organiser registration branch, that's an old stamp that I bought either from a charity shop or it might have been part of that job lot off Leeds Market, I'm not sure. The sort of tape shut on the box is picture framing tape, which is like a paper tape that's normally used to seal up sort of the backs of picture frames, but it makes quite an effective sort of aged tape. And the seals on there are, again, that's a genuinely old one. That's my great-grandfather's laundry tag from when he worked on the railways, which I've still got the stamp for. So that's what I've done all the seals with on those. So I put all of these on. These are just stuck on with Pritt stick. I found that is by far the best way to put flat pieces of paper onto something without them wrinkling up too much. Now, some of them, like this one, I have intentionally wrinkled as I put it on, because in the period this was done, these would have been done using like a water-based sort of paste, which I'm not really sure what was in it. I think it might have been one of these sort of flour and water type mixtures, but I'm not entirely sure. Either way, it's not something that's that readily available or that user-friendly anymore, so I just do it with Pritt stick. It seems to work quite well. So I got all of these stickers on, all of these labels, because they're all just on paper. None of them are actually self-adhesive, but then again, they wouldn't have been at the time. So I got all of those on, then obviously applied more stamps sort of over the top, wrote this sort of superseded mark on here on some of these others. Again, we've got more on the side here. So I did that. Then I took this down to the garage and I attacked it with some fine sort of 120 grit sandpaper, which is how you sort of get these all bits roughed up, the corners sort of roughed off a bit, rounded off. I then went in with a fairly dull blade and cut it all open again, so that all of these are a little bit torn around the joints. I then had a go at the corners of the box with a hammer to just, again, make it look like it's been shipped, it's been dropped. This side of it, I grabbed hold of it and then scraped it across the garage floor, again, just to give it that sort of look of having been shipped. I then hammered nails into the corners and ripped them out again quite roughly and purposely put them in to split the wood again, so that it looks like this has been nailed shut, it's been pulled open. That corner I even left the nail in and bent the head over. Again, it just all adds to the story, because what you're trying to do with something like this is to create a story of an object that has had a life. This box that I found in a charity shop is probably less than 10 years old, and the aim is to try and make this look like this has been around for 100 years and not that well treated. So that's how I did the box. The ink stamps, I use these standard ink pads. I've got a range of colours that I've seen on old documents, so sort of a dark royal blue, a purple, a dark red and a darkish green. Now, these colours may not have been the colours that they were at the time, because obviously colour changes, it fades, but that doesn't matter because what I'm trying to do is make it look of that era. So if you get the ink that's the right colour for how it is now, it will look right, if that makes sense. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look into making an Eldritch artifact, which I certainly enjoyed making it. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. I might end up selling it because it's quite a biggish box and I don't really know where I'm going to put it in my house. It was kind of something I made because I found the box and I felt like doing it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Hopeless Maine Festival.